This lead, it is Antonio Forzieri, and he's going to be speaking on Cyber Defense Center. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Antonio Forzieri. All yours.
Oh, it works. Hello, guys. So it seems I'm the only guy between you and your brand new Apple Watch, right? So I'll keep it short, 25 minutes. I'll try to make it fun as well. So the topic for today is, building security operations center that are able to consolidate IT and OT, right? This is what's going on all over the globe recently. I've seen multiple times happening that for my customers in EMEA. We are starting some discussion here in the Middle East as well, and we started multiple discussion in the US as well, right? So it seems to be quite a hot topic. So if we look back, back in time, the targeted attacks have always been there, right? You can see the main trends since 2014 up to 2016. I don't want to discuss about all the points in this slide. This will be left, as a documentation for you guys. But, the topic is that the attackers are shifting to targeted, right? Always more targeted. Also, if you think about ransomware, okay? Ransomware are becoming targeted as well. I mean, last year we have seen hospital being hit, public transportation system being hit, hotel being hit, and so on and so forth, right? What if, this year we'll see targeted ransomware hitting, the OT environment as well, I lock your plant unless you pay me, right? And if you give me money, I'm going to unlock your plant. Otherwise, bye-bye, right? And last year, the average price per server was quite high. I mean, the attackers were asking almost 1 Bitcoin per server. To be more precise, it was $926 at that time. I was looking at the stocks today, and the Bitcoin price is increasing. I guess today we are around $1,200 per Bitcoin. So pretty interesting as well, right? And we heard a lot about IoT and innovation in SCADA system, interconnection as well. And I was at RSA conference, in San Francisco, and there was a nice quote that I want to basically quote as well. It was coming from the CTO of RSA, and he was telling basically that innovation invites exploitation, right? And this will happen as well in our own environment, right? In the OT environment. Moreover, right? If you look at who is attacking you, well, to keep it short, we have the kids, right? ScriptKit this, they just attack you, they download tools, they have no idea what they're doing, they push a button and they think that they're doing something, right? Usually, if you have a good protection or prevention technology, very well deployed, that is more than enough, right, to keep these guys out. But we have also more complex attackers, okay? We have the more experienced one. And in this case, these guys sooner or later will come in. So it's not only a matter of doing prevention right, it's also a matter of investing in monitoring, okay? Detection, okay? But you know what? We have a third type of attacker. That way. And there is no defense against them, right? They will come in, they will get your data, they will, do sabotage, espionage, whatever they have. The real question is not if you are going to die. I mean, yes, if they're going to hit us, we're going to die. But the point is, how long are we spending to catch them? Because if the answer is, 2 years, or 1 year, or 7 months, right, it's too much. We have to compress this time as much as we can. And I was presenting this slide a long time ago in a conference, right? It was like 2 years ago in 2014. And I was basically describing all the attacks, right? Do you know what all these attacks, or what the great part of these attacks have in common? Middle East, right? Stuxnet, Middle East, DQ, Middle East as well, especially version 2. Flamer, Middle East, Gauss, Middle East. This track is Shamoon, basically. It's the name Symantec gave to it, and it's Shamoon as well, okay? The only exceptions are all the other one, and as you can see, out of 8 targeted attacks, 5 of them were hitting the Middle East. So Middle East is the target. That's not a question. And if we look at today, right, I mean, we had Shamoon, and we had the Greenbug team that seemed to get credential for Shamoon as well. And we have the version 2 of Shamoon, and that's a Kaspersky report. They were calling it Stone Drill. But anyway, still Middle East, right? So Middle East is a very, very hot territory and is a target, will be a target as well this year. And I mean, we have Shodan founder here. I don't know if he's still in the room, John. Kudos to you, man. I mean, that's a great tool, by the way. I mean, I was doing a simple exercise before coming here, right? Because most of the time, even if we do know that SCADA system, OT is connected, I keep having customers telling me, oh, but our OT infrastructure is segregated, blah, 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 right? And then, if you simple search, port 5900 no authentication, and that's basically, I was looking for VNC connections, okay, without any kind of authentication, you will find some funny pictures like this, okay, or like this, or like this, or like this, okay? And all these ones are still alive, okay? I was testing it like 10 minutes ago. Each one of these systems you see in the picture is reachable through internet using a VNC connection without any form of authentication. And many of them allow you to interact with the system, shut it down or modify variables and stuff like that. How dangerous is that? I mean, the speaker before me told us, when we speak about OT, it's not all about confidentiality. Actually, we don't care about confidentiality, right? We do care about availability and integrity, about what if I can modify the integrity of those systems? What if I can bring them down easily, pushing a button, right? Through a VNC connection, I mean, from Q8, jumping through multiple proxy without anybody being able to track me back. The good news is that even if attackers are smart, they leave traces. They do leave traces, right? I mean, they can be extremely good in deleting and removing them, but almost in every kind of attack, we're able to track them back, okay? They do leave traces. So, and that's a very good reason of why we have to invest in detection, okay? Prevention is important, don't get me wrong. You have to protect your system. You have to do a very great job in prevention, but prevention will fail, okay? Sooner or later. It's a matter of time. So they will come in, and we should be able to detect them. So how we do invest in detection? We have lots of US speaker, at least from the accent. I could hear that, right? So, and this is a very powerful slide, at least in the US, right? But this tells you a very, very simple story of why detection is important and why, when you do detection, you should have a lot of context with you, right? On the morning of the 7th of December, 1941, a radar station in Oahu, Hawaii, operated by the US Army, picked up a huge blip on its instrument. Do you know what that huge blip was? Pearl Harbor, okay? And you know what the analyst, or better, the radar guy thought at that time? He thought, well, that's a friendly plane, it's flying, probably, it's a C-130, shipping some stuff, so nothing we should care about, right? Nothing scary. And Pearl Harbor happened, right? And the quote is taken from a very, very great book, 10 Strategies of a World-Class Cybersecurity Operations Center. It's a free book on Maitre. You feel free to go on Maitre website and download the PDF. It's a great tool. It's a good food for thoughts, okay? But if we don't have the proper detection mechanism, right, and we don't have enough context, Pearl Harbor is going to happen again, in our OT environment, and we don't want that. So when I talk to my customers, because they want to build a security operations center, or as I call it, a cyber defense center, most of the time, the first question I ask to my customer is, dear customers, what do you want to get out of your security operations center? Okay? And if you are going through a SOC project, right, to this year, next year, if you went through a SOC project last year, 2 years back, ask you this question, what I want to get out of my SOC project? Okay? I'm asking you that because not asking you these questions is the best way to waste a lot of money, fail your project, and spend a lot of time doing nothing. Or better, achieving nothing, right? I mean, most of the customers, or many of them actually, they come to me and they say, hey, Antonio, you know what? We want someone helping us in building a big security operations center, and because we want to catch the bad guys in our infrastructure. Cool. Okay? That's the very first use case. Okay? That's the kind of security operations center, or, well, the service where we do need 24/7. You know, guys, attackers are not attacking, on Sunday morning after you drink your coffee, okay, and you read the newspaper. They do attack you before Ramadan, before all the celebrations you have here, or during the weekend, because they know that you are not in front of your system, right? Or you have a smaller team in front of the system, okay? But that's the kind of system, if you try to build by yourself, has a high number of rules, and the kind of complexity is very high. Why that? I mean, attackers are not using the same technique all over again. They keep changing it on a weekly basis, okay? Monthly basis, daily basis, okay? You decide, but the kind of techniques mutate quite fast. Intelligence here is a must. So you have to have visibility in your country and understand what's going on. Just to give you an idea, number-wise, in EMEA, Symantec catches from 30 to 60%, so from 30 to 60% of critical attacks just because we have the right intelligence out of critical attacks. That means that if you don't have the right intelligence, you're going to miss them simply. And that's, let's say 30% of the critical, which is quite a big chunk, okay? Very difficult to maintain. Maintaining it's a, very complicated. And the reason why it's very complicated is because you have to do continuous tuning on your CM platform if you decide to go for a CM, for example. Many customers want to do compliance, right? Oh, I have to be, PCI DSS compliant because I have credit card. I want to be ISO 27001, and we were hearing about ISO 27001 from the previous speaker because that's the framework I'm using. I want to have some metrics from COBIT or ITIL, blah, 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 right? And I can get the data from a CM, for example, right? That's very different, though. I mean, my most paranoid customers, UK one, extremely paranoid about, compliance. You know that, right? No one of them runs compliance 24/7, guys. No one. There is no reason to run compliance 24/7. I mean, seriously, dude, compliance 8/5, more than enough. If you're really paranoid, 12/5, more than enough, okay? And the complexity is way different. I mean, who knows ISO 27001 really well? So how many controls does ISO 27001 have? 200, the Annex A contain 240-ish controls, right? And probably 50 of them, you can automate them through a SIM. And how often does ISO 27001 change? 5 years. So you build one and forget. PCI DSS, probably it's not your case, guys, but you build it and it changes every 2 or 3 years. Easy to maintain as well. Or we have customers as well who want to do investigation. Okay, they want to build a system, they want to collect as much as they can, right? Store as much as they can, and investigate into the threats, right? When something hit them, they want to go and investigate. Or they want to have a big data lake, as it, common to call it today, and they want to harvest the big data lake and search into the big data lake to see if there is any kind of attacker, threat hunting, right? Nice. Super sexy team. There is only one small issue, right? If you want to do that, the level of storage you need is impressive, okay? I had a discussion with the Middle East customers. We're building a SOC for, and if we just store logs, these guys generate from 2 to 3 terabytes of logs per day, right? And they were telling me, I want to keep my data for 24 months, right? We were doing some maths, and we were telling them, good luck, you need X petabyte of storage. Right? So ask you this question, what do you want to get out of it when you want to build a SOC? And usually the answer is a mix of use case 1, 2, and 3. Now, when you start the journey, right, what I tell to customers as well, just before you start, you should have the right strategy in place, okay? Just because I'm Italian, right, I use the restaurant example. So let's say that I want to open a Kuwaiti restaurant in Milan. Okay? How do I do that? What's the first thing I do if I want to open a Kuwaiti restaurant and I have no idea how to prepare a Kuwaiti dish? Come to Kuwait, right? I come here, pretty often, so I cannot cook them, but I'm extremely good in eating it, so I have some skills. So the first thing I would do is to come to Kuwait, right, and talk to somebody who is a fantastic cook, right, and ask him, can you help me building my menu for my customers? Okay, I want you to help me building my menu for my customers. So what I'm going to sell to my customers in Italy once I open a Kuwaiti restaurant in Milan. That's a service catalog in the SOC. So what you want to deliver through your security operations center into your company, right? And if I want to build a restaurant, open a restaurant, right? Where I'm going to start from? I'm going to start learning the very complex dishes that you have, or I'm going to start from the simple one? I start from the simple one, right? Because if I don't get the basics, I have no luck of cooking complex food. And that's what we do in the SOC as well. We start with the foundational services. I will show you what I mean by foundational, right? And we build on top of them slowly. So you have to have the menu, the long-term menu, and the capability and maturity model to build your operations center across time. And then you have the usual consulting phases, right? I mean, build the processes, use the framework you like, ITIL, for example. Define roles and responsibilities, who does what, RACI model. And also the organizational model has to be shaped. Most of the time, when we build a SOC into one organization, it's extremely uncommon to find the organization really well shaped to fit the security operations center. So something has to be shuffled a little bit. And then you end in a well-defined security operations center, right? Sounds simple. Sounds extremely simple. And this is my menu, okay? Well, my menu. This is the Symantec menu, right? What we prepare for our customers is a quite complex menu. We have starters, first column, services that we want to run before something bad happens, okay? We have the main dish, so reactive services, something we want to deliver to customers when something bad happens, okay? So left of bang and right of bang. And security management, okay? Dessert, okay? So how I'm going to report on everything that happened. And we have a bunch of services, and you can probably recognize performance monitoring and fault monitoring, which are extremely common in an OT environment, right? That's what you monitor. You want to monitor if the infrastructure is up and running, if the temperature is correct, if the pressure is correct, if the pipe is, the integrity is good. And that's the maturity model as well, right? That's just one example. There are millions of them, and we can customize and tweak it on customers' need. But the idea is that we have to start from the basics. Where do I start? I start from the real-time device monitoring. I want to monitor in real time all devices customers has in its own infrastructure, okay? I want to be able to identify incident, to classify incident, to notify incident, and to respond. That's the basics. If you don't collect logs and you don't recognize incidents, detect them, there is no other service worth building on it, right? Sometimes I talk to customers, they don't have any kind of SOC or real-time device monitoring, and they come to me and tell me, hey, Antonio, I love the model, but you know what? I mean, I want to build a threat hunting service for my company. Fantastic, right? I mean, do you have any kind of detection capabilities today? No, I don't have anything. So what's the point in doing threat hunting then? I'm super happy to deliver a threat hunting exercise once, right? But if you want to build a service that runs in a company, you should have all the other services first. And what are we seeing as Symantec, right? When I go around and talk to customers, I have a global role. So I look after America, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and Asia-Pac. And I spend most of my time in Europe and Middle East. This is where I spend a big chunk of my time into US, right? So when I go and talk to my customers, most of the time, what I see is that they have a model like this, right? You know that you can build in-house using a SIEM technology, or you can use a service in the cloud using a pure MSS. But what big customers are doing today is going hybrid. So they leverage MSS for the power and the capability of ingesting all the logs customers have, and being able to deliver a 24/7 service in a super quick and smart way. And they use MSS especially for real-time device monitoring and threat detection. So for the first column, right, in the use cases list I had, so for the threat detection. And they use the same technology with a smaller team on-prem for compliance or maybe attack investigation and stuff like that. And this is working well. It's working well for multiple reasons, right? They can implement a security operations center in a fast way, okay, with less money, with an affordable TCO. I have 4 minutes left, 5 minutes, but just to tell you, where my customer fails usually. So I built this slide after the first year I got my EMEA role 4 years ago. So 4 years ago, I had a similar role. I was just looking after Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And I was meeting multiple customers, and I guess 80% of them was falling in this kind of case. So they were buying a SIEM platform because they had a compliance mandate. They were building it. Okay? They took like 6 months to build a SIEM. The project was successful. They had the indicator up and running. Everybody was happy. The CISO was happy. The board was happy. Everybody had the indicator. But there is a saying in Italy, I don't know if you have the same in Kuwait as well, that says, that basically sounds like appetite comes with eating. That basically means that even if you're not hungry and you start eating, you eat basically whatever food you have on the table, right? And that's what happens in this case as well. So customers start telling themselves, oh, nice, I can build a SOC as well. Let's start ingesting firewalls and IPS and application and whatever I have. And this takes usually, to reach stability, something like 36 months. Okay? And usually customers don't have the power to run it 24/7. And this is a fail. Okay? It's a fail where they're wasting money and time, not achieving results. Two big challenges. The first one is time. When you do that with a SIEM platform fully on-prem, that's why customers are moving hybrid today. When you do with a SIEM, that's the time you take to implement it. Let's say 2 months to build a SIEM and 2 years to refine and fine-tune it. If you have any experience, any friends working for a different sector in another company, and they built a SIEM platform, just ask them the question straightforward. How long does it take to build your SIEM? How much time did you spend implementing it? And I had extremely, extremely funny answers from my customers. I mean, I was in a conference in Nordics last year with lots of CISOs. I was asking a question, so how long did it take to you to build your CM platform? One guy, he was the CISO of a big bank. He was raising his hand, and he was telling me, I spent 5 years. 5? I mean, I thought I was not getting it right. You mean 5? 5 years. He has my personal award, right? I mean, the other point is that you should get people to monitor. And people cost a lot of money. I mean, here you have a copy-paste from the book. These are some best practices. The best practices, require 2 people per shift, okay? You don't want somebody to go to the toilet, forgetting the badge, and not being able to walk in the SOC anymore, right? So you need at least 2 people if you are a very tiny company. And to have a 24/7 seat, you have to hire 5 FTE, right? This means that if you want to have 2 people 24/7, you have to hire 10 of them, okay? And do you know that analysts are quite expensive? The average price is around 100K each, and this is $1 million for 10 FTEs for a very tiny SOC, by the way, right? If you are a super big company, I mean, we built security operations center for customers, a hybrid model, and some customers have like 26 analysts overall, so $2.6 million just for people, which is a huge amount of money. So when you start thinking about building, think about the TCO. So how much I'm going to spend to operate it, because there is no point in building something you cannot operate. Okay, there is no point for me buying a Ferrari if I don't have enough money to put gas in it. I wish I could buy a Ferrari, by the way. Or if you have one, we can share. And money is, I was telling you, right, is $1 million just for money. And how much are you going to spend to retain or train them? A lot of time as well. So 34 seconds, I will go probably 1 minute over time. She's very severe. But how do we extend monitoring to the OT? How did we do that in the past? the first thing that we do in a successful way was moving the OT monitoring to the SOC. The reason why we did that is because OT infrastructures have performance monitoring, have fault monitoring in place, okay? If you have the power to merge the two organizations and have the OT team monitoring for availability and performance to the SOC, this will be a very first step in the very good direction. The second step we took was extending the monitoring to all the networking equipments you have into your OT environment. I mean, in Italy, for example, or in the UK, or everywhere, I mean, and I guess for you guys, it's exactly the same. I know, actually, that many customers here have the same kind of layout. You use networking equipments to segregate the OT environment as well. You have them, connect them to your security operations center and keep monitoring them. The reason why I suggest and recommend that is because today, even if the security for the OT environment is a CISO responsibility, usually the CISO has no idea how the OT environment looks like. They have no idea which devices they have, how many they have, which kind of brands they have, which kind of vulnerability they have, where they are, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Understand what you have, right? This will give you visibility. You will start understanding what you have in your OT infrastructure. Get visibility. Take time. Spend time understanding what you have. And then gather logs from additional resources, right? And then move to the endpoint. The endpoint discussion is quite tough and tricky. We don't have enough time to drill into it. But let's bring the security vendor like us to speak with your OT vendor, right? Just to understand how we can protect the endpoint they have and merge that to the SOC. And slice and dice your data, right? The future is where we can use, I was discussing with somebody, some of the speaker about that. The future is moving all the OT data in a big data analytics platform to do some behavioral detection, right? User behavior analytics. Maybe not just for security, but also for availability, right? Or you know what, on average, this device is failing every X amount of time and it starts misbehaving, so you might want to have a look at it before it fails, right? And you want to have services like this. Long story short, this is an architecture that a customer of ours is using today in a hybrid model, and that's the very last slide I have, I promise. Devices, including OT. This is sending into, here we have ArcSight and Splunk in that kind of infrastructure, but you can use whatever SIEM you have. It's using a hybrid infrastructure, using MSS to cover 24/7, and Splunk and ArcSight to cover the on-prem stuff. And everything is integrated into the Cyber Defense Center, right, with the ticketing system, which is Remedy in this example. Okay? So this is up and running today. Okay? And it's working well. We are at the step number 2, so we have merged the OT availability detection, and we are now connecting all the networking equipments, right? So still kind of immature, but the next phase will be the most interesting one, right? Wait and analyze what you have, because the CISO has no idea how the OT infrastructure look like. And that's it. 2 minutes over time. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I'm waiting for your Ferrari, by the way.